Bill C-45 is called an omnibus bill. Are you familiar with an omnibus bill? Omnibus means it's a slew of bills all lumped together. And in this one, there's several bills, and I think there's like over 200. This document is massive. It's 450 pages. 450 pages of all different laws that they're changing. One of the other changes that they made is to the Indian Act. I will be the first one to tell you, throw that piece of document out. But the changes they've made are of no interest, are not in the best interest of Indigenous people, nor were we consulted or informed before these changes were made. These changes will impact the reserve lands that my people live on. What it's going to do is, it's lowered the threshold of consent to surrender land. It also lowered the threshold of redesignating reserve lands, which means the Aboriginal Affairs Minister can go on to our reserve lands and redesignate a portion of the reserve for nuclear storage. That's what it's going to do. And if people think that they're not impacted, I'm telling you, you will be impacted if those reserve lands if the storage fails in some way. It's going to affect many people, because many of you, I think, have some information that the Indigenous people are suffering from high rates of poverty, joblessness. It's all the effects of colonialism and genocide. And the Indian Act legislation is a piece of legislation that is an arm of genocide and colonialism that still continues today. This is a statement from John A. MacDonald. The great aim of our legislation has been to do away with the tribal system and assimilate the Indian people in all aspects with other inhabitants of the Dominion as speedily as they are fit to change. Nothing has changed. To this day, there are policies and processes in place to assimilate my people. More and more, my people are we're losing our languages, we're losing our cultures, and now we are losing our lands. And if you know anything about the three elements of nationhood, that's land, language, and culture. If the legislation is successful and my people become landless even more, then the extermination and the extinguishment of the Indigenous people will be in their final phases. That's us. You can see it's not all Indigenous people. Sheila McLean can't be any more white because she's Scottish. There's not a drop of Indian in her. She's blonde, blue-eyed, very beautiful. She's quickly, before I know more, we didn't know each other. It was just a fluke of a conversation that we had that brought us together. And Bill C-45 is instrumental in that conversation. We all decided that we couldn't be silent. There's something in Canadian law called acquiescence, which means your compliance is consent, which equals to silence is consent. And all four of us decided that we weren't going to be silent, that the Canadian citizens deserved to be informed and had a right to know what was going on by the Conservative government, because there was hardly any information being put out there. And I certainly didn't, I wasn't informed as an Indigenous person how these things were going to impact us. That's Sheila McLean, Nina Wilson, and that's me with a t-shirt that says, I don't know more. And beside there is Jessica Gordon. I'm from the Nihio Nation. Nina is Dakota, and Jessica is Cree, like me. We're the dominant nation in that territory. We started with teach-ins. Teach-ins are similar to this. When we first started, we were laughed at. We were spit on. We were not taken seriously at all. We were just not taken seriously. I just don't know how else to explain it. We have no money. I Don't Know More has no money. What you're witnessing now, it's all from volunteer work, from people who are so passionate about the land and the water and the love for all of our children that are going to be affected, that are directly impacted by the legislation. And so we started in Saskatoon on November 10th. And I think it's our naivety. I am not an activist. I tell you, if someone had told me that I would be doing this 8 months ago, I probably would have laughed at them. I don't use language like solidarity and unity and sisterhood and brotherhood. I never understood that language until I Don't Know More came to be. And as it grew, I began to understand what those terms meant, how it impacts when we talk about land and water and the devastation of those two very fundamental needs to humanity, and how it impacts globally. I began to understand, and I began to breathe life into those words through my own understanding, and how the different Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people all over the world could relate when we started talking about we need clean water, we need land. So the vision, and after we did the first teach-in, I think it was somebody donated like $100 to us, and then somebody invited us to the other city called Regina. We took off over there, did another teach-in, got invited to another city. We went over there and did a teach-in, and then after a little while, we decided, why don't we just call for a national I Don't Know More Day of Action. So on December 10th, and again, this is where we were being naive and not really understanding what we were doing. So I told the other founders, well, I'll take Vancouver and Calgary and Edmonton, and I'll coordinate those. It was like we were taking piecemeal in Canada. I didn't realize how much work it was going to take. But on December 10th, we had a national I Don't Know More Day of Action, and so many people joined us. There was a massive rally in Ottawa, and 3,000 people showed up. It was just phenomenal. And then in Edmonton, about 1,500 people showed up, and we all walked, and everybody joined us. And then when grassroots people came to us and said, I want to say a poem, I want to show my support and solidarity for I Don't Know More and the land and the water, can I say a poem? We're like, okay, you know. And it's just, people were coming to us and saying, can I sing a song? And we said, okay, you know, that's the voice of the grassroots people. That's the creative resistance. And this was all peaceful. It was all in peace. And then this is where, if you Google I Don't Know More on YouTube, you'll see tons of videos all over the place pouring in about flash mob round dances. And those have become very popular in terms of resisting the colonization, resisting the contamination and the devastation of water and land. Okay, thank you. You know, I didn't understand what liberation was. I didn't understand the term freedom. And I didn't really understand how colonized and how oppressed my people were until we started going to the malls until we started going to the teach-ins and putting the voices out there in places that they haven't been heard in a long, long time. This is the vision of I Don't Know More. We will continue to build sovereignty and a resurgence of nationhood. Continue to pressure the government and to protect the environment. Continue to build allies in order to reframe the nation-to-nation relationship. This will be done by including grassroots perspective, issues, and concerns. And we've been criticized in my own nation by the media that we have no vision, that we weren't structured enough. The mainstream media in Canada has not been kind to us because we are challenging the Conservative government. We are pressuring the Conservative government. And on January 28th, I Don't Know More will have its global, worldwide day of action, and it will be peaceful. And it's one of the other reasons why I'm here. I've come to do a teach-in on that day as well. And there'll be people walking in Canada in solidarity with all of our allies and all of the refugee and immigrant people. They've decided to join us because the environment affects everyone.